finally give some love to the NFC. Item number 4 on our Sunday 6. That's the grudge match in Atlanta. I said at the top of the show how chalk heavy this week was, but one division lead did change hands. The Atlanta Falcons beat the New Orleans Saints 24-15 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Didn't always look great. Honestly, looked like the Falcons might be heading for another dark day. Desmond Ritter with a couple early turnovers, but he responded in a big, big way. Talking now to the guys that called it, Joe Davis, Daryl Moose Johnston. Guys, like I said, kind of an ugly start for Desmond Ritter, but how did you see him bounce back to lead the Falcons to this win?
Well, he had the couple picks today, but he made some good plays. And then he had that running game that's always going to be there for Arthur Smith's team, and they get a win.
Well, I think the biggest thing is I think he learned a lot. The reasons why he was having the turnovers, but I think he also got an opportunity to watch Taylor Heineke perform as the starting quarterback for 2 weeks and see how he approached his craft. And I think he learned some things. You can be more vocal and you can ask for things to be taken out of the game plan that you don't feel comfortable with or you feel are not playing to your strengths. And I think that that's a big thing. And he never really had that before. The 2 interceptions today, I'm going to say the first one, I don't think that's on him. I think it was a real jumbled up play. The second one is definitely on him. He threw a back shoulder fade. It didn't call for a back shoulder fade, so we still got to work on that. But the biggest thing for Desmond Ritter is understand who you have around you. There's a number of really good skill players on this offense. I'll tell you what, I was extremely impressed with their offensive line today. It may have been the most impressive thing for me. So you're talking about a team that's got all the pieces in place around you. If he can grow and mature, the guys love him. That's a hard thing to do, to get your teammates to really rally around you. He's got so much good going on right now, is just tempering down some of those mistakes you're making, and I think things are going to be fine. Arthur Smith has picked at 4, at 8, and at 8 the last 3 drafts. If there was a quarterback there that he really wanted, he would have taken him. And he wants to build this offense around a bunch of dynamic skill players, which he has. And he's hoping he has the right guy to kind of run that whole thing.
And more than just a win today in his return to the starting lineup, it's a win that puts him into first place here for the stretch run.
One thing I'll say about Desmond Ritter is this. For all of his flaws, for whatever mistakes he's made this season, he's had a clutch moment at the end of virtually every Falcons win. Green Bay all the way back in week 2, the Texans, the Buccaneers, and now the Saints. Not a walk-off drive here against New Orleans, but putting together a 95-yard scoring drive to take a 2-possession lead in the fourth quarter. Desmond Ritter has come through at the end of most of Atlanta's big moments this season. But for all the love for Desmond Ritter, and we'll throw in Bijan Robinson too. Finally, we're getting Bijan Robinson involved in the passing game. He, as a receiver, scores the touchdown that really puts Atlanta in control of this game. But okay, cool. All that said, I want to talk about the other side of the ball and something that can get swept under the rug on a busy Sunday. Let's talk about Jesse Bates III. Let's talk about every spring we look at the major free agency deals that get signed, and so often we say, oh, you don't want to win free agency. You overpay guys. You pay good players great money. So back in March, the Falcons signed one of the best safeties in the NFL, Jesse Bates, to a big-time $64 million contract. I bet they feel pretty good about it today, sitting on top of the NFC South. Jesse Bates going up against the New Orleans Saints. He finishes with 12 tackles, a pass breakup, a 92-yard pick six that really turned this game on its head. Saints are driving to potentially take a 10-0 lead. Jesse Bates says, absolutely not, Derek Carr. I'm going to step right in front of that slant. I'm going to take it to the house. And then in the fourth quarter, I mentioned the 95-yard drive by Desmond Ritter. That doesn't happen if Jesse Bates doesn't force a fumble of Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill runs for 10 yards, picks up what looks like a 1st and goal at the Atlanta 8. Looking like a big-time moment for the Saints. Jesse Bates punches the ball out. Falcons recover. They go down and take a 2-possession lead. Obviously, it doesn't all happen without your quarterback and your star running back doing their thing. But I just want to make sure everybody is aware that Jesse Bates balled the hell out. And, you know, if you're not paying attention, it's the type of thing that's going to get lost in the box score. But a hell of a day from him, and a hell of a nice spot for a 5-6 team to be if you're Atlanta. It's not just that the Falcons beat their hated rival or that they regain the division lead. more importantly, right now, they're undefeated in the division. They're 3-0. And they've already got wins against the Saints and the Bucks. All due respect to the Panthers, you're not going to be part of this division race. It is a 3-team race. The Falcons have won their first game against each. They can't finish with a losing record in the division. 3-0. Worst they can do is 500 against their division opponents. They've still got a game against a woeful Panthers team. I'm liking where the Falcons are. Famous last words, because if there's one thing I know right now, it's I don't think we can fully trust anybody in the NFC South. But of the three, Falcons clearly in the best spot of all. Speaking of not being able to trust people, Alvin Kamara with the quote of the day for the New Orleans Saints, calling his team consistently inconsistent. If that's not perfectly said, I don't know what is. The Saints have to be beyond pissed that this is a game. Not only did they lose, they lost by 2 possessions. Like, they didn't even lose at the gun. They have 444 yards of offense. They got to the red zone 5 times. You know how many touchdowns they scored? They didn't score any. They finished with 15 points, all field goals. No touchdowns in a division rival against a division rival, a team that you know well, in a game coming out of the bye week. We always say you self-scout, you retool, you figure out what you do well, what you don't do well. And to some degree they did. They finally got Chris Olave going. He had 100 yards at halftime, and it's not the Saints' fault that he goes out with a concussion. But I would like to think that the Saints have enough talent on their roster that even if you don't win, you get into the end zone at least one time. It's been the story of the Saints season. Were they supposed to be the best team in the NFL? No. But when you consider the strengths of their roster and the weakness of the division, and all due respect to the Falcons, it is a weak division. The team leading it is below 500. I think the Saints deserve mention as one of the most disappointing teams in the league. When you're paying a quarterback what Derek Carr is getting paid, when you have some of the talented players that they have on defense, you run it back to some degree. That's what the Saints have been doing all these years. They run it back with veteran players. They always find a way to get under the cap. Season's not over. Don't get me wrong. And I said it last week. All these teams are going to play several more games against each other, but really, really disappointing to see the way the Saints continually step on their own feet, continually do things like find ways not to score in the red zone. It's very disappointing, but for all of the reasons I just said, you can't completely rule them out. Falcons on top of the NFC South, but lots more football to play in that division.